So this right here is the second encounter with Nightmare. This shouldn't be too bad. This Sparda sword is pretty trash, and you can't even use Devil Trigger while you have it equipped, so what's the point in using it? I don't even think it does more damage than Alistor when it's Devil Triggered, or even Ifrit. And here's another stupid swimming section. This one's worse, honestly, because you're dealing with Sin Scissors, and the hit detection on their masks is atrocious. There we go. So that last one doesn't seem to aggro immediately, so you can kind of stay in the back area. God, the shooting is so bad. It's just such a bizarre swimming system. So like, only holding the D-pad you turn, and it's pretty slow, but if you tap triangle while you're holding the D-pad, you'll do your actions faster. But if you hold R1 and you move the D-pad, you can move slowly, very slowly. And you have to mash X in order to swim faster. And then you have to hold R1 and mash circle in order to fire. And of course, when you hold R1, your movement is slowed. It's an awful control scheme. Why did they favor it? I seriously do not get it. Like, why do developers have to put in these radical ideas in these games that during this generation they didn't control very well, and everything was just sort of like, hey, can you get up, please? I don't know what the hell he was stuck on. Like, this is not the time to experiment with radical ideas. And even if you are going to put it in, maybe QA test it a bit better. I mean, what were you thinking? Putting in that kind of shitty swimming system. Come on, Resident Evil Revelations understood how to do swimming mechanics. And that was a tank control-based game from 2011. I mean, yes, this game's from 2001, but come on. I mean, I seriously don't get it. This is not the time to experiment with such radical ideas. Watch this. Ah, what? Come on. Apparently my timing was off on that. There we go, that's the counter. So you can counter that side attack by using a regular strike attack or a jump attack or even rolling blaze. And when you do that, it stuns Nightmare and it exposes the other weak spot for a longer duration. This is where people like to use Ifrit, so go for it. And also during the second and third encounters with Nightmare, these weak spots shatter with less hits compared to the first encounter. So what that means is that these weak spots will develop more damage resistance after fewer hits compared to the very first encounter with Nightmare. This is another move we can also parry as well and stun Nightmare. Oh, he caught me. Okay. Try to get behind him when he does this move. Oh, shit! God damn it. Apparently that classes as ground for some reason. I couldn't even see what he was doing because of the dust he kicked up. It's also completely random where this Sin Scissor... yeah, what the hell? That is so retarded. I gotta reset the spawn. Why the hell was he inside of me? What a stupid placement of a Sin Scissor. Yet another retarded action from a developer. I think after I do this playthrough, I'm not going to play this game again. Like, I'll acknowledge the unique mechanics in my playthrough. I mean, maybe I'll do a walkthrough on Dante Must Die or something. But after that, I don't think I'll play this game again. It's so bad. And the only thing that will possibly compel me to play Devil May Cry 1 again is if my mind is telling me to do so, as if I'll gain something out of it. Like some nagging sensation will be telling me to play through the game again. And that's okay, my input didn't register again. This game really loves eating my inputs in the stupidest ways possible. Again! I was mashing triangle, nothing happened. What, is it more delayed when he's doing this? It shouldn't be. Okay. So I guess when you do this particular forward jump, the slam is delayed a bit. Whereas when you jump directly up, it isn't delayed. So how I'm gonna get him to stand still is a bit confusing, because I have to also avoid the laser fire from those orbs. Apparently wasn't done yet. So again, you can strafe to avoid those lasers from the orbs. Try to get behind them right now. Oh my god, the camera messed with my movement again! I was trying to go one direction, and then the camera changed, and I got put into another direction. Who's the dumbass that didn't bother putting in a control scheme for the D-pad? The D-pad does nothing in this game, so they could have easily allocated the D-pad to movement, but they just opted for the analog stick instead. And it makes no sense because during the swimming sections, you can use the D-pad to move, so if you can do that, why do you not put in a control scheme for the D-pad for general movement? It doesn't make sense. You could easily bypass the camera issues by favoring a D-pad-based movement system, just like with the older Resident Evil titles. By the way, for Nightmare 3, you'll want to save at least 3 Holy Waters, because his final phase can be really obnoxious without the Holy Waters. Yeah, it's ridiculous that he has this much life. Okay, he's gone. He's not dead, he's just gone. That was worse than the first fight. That was pretty dumb. If I didn't get screwed by the camera, I could have done this without sustaining too much damage. Keep getting my buttons mixed up. Alright. That was a piece of cake. So once again, you can get Nightmare to do 4 or 5 moves, and in this case he gets an additional move where he fires that boomerang around, and you can actually melee it and stun him, but I normally just like to perform the slam when he does the side blade attack. And you gotta make sure that you're holding R1 so that Dante actually aims at Nightmare and also stops his movement, because doing this where you jump directly up and then slam is faster than jumping forward then slamming, because there's a slight delay when you jump forward and try to slam, and that can allow Nightmare to hit you before your slam comes out. So always make sure you hold R1, jump straight up, and then slam, so that the slam is initiated earlier and you'll always counter that side blade attack. And also, the best way to know when to melee these circular dials is to watch the symbols on Nightmare's head. You notice how he has that red coloration on his head when he's active, but when it goes blue, it means he's disassembling. So when it goes blue, that's when you want to melee these circular tablets, like getting really close to them, holding R1, and then performing the thrust attack. The thrust attack is the best way to charge these dials up. So basically, once you charge up the dials, you gotta just strafe like this or just move to the side to avoid the lasers being fired by the orbs, and try to stay in front of Nightmare's head so that he does the ice cannon attack. And also, before he even fires the cannon, he will fire streaks of white light at you that will damage you and stun you to try to set you up to being hit by the ice cannon. So you gotta make sure that you jump up into the air immediately upon seeing him release his orb and fire the ice cannon. And then once he's done, pretty much the next attack he does will likely be the side blade attack, because he does that move every other time. Sometimes he won't do that and he'll do the boomerang move instead, but just make sure you stay in front of Nightmare at all times so that he does the moves that you need. And also try to make sure that you do not go onto this balcony right over here, or really on any of the balconies, because for some reason the balconies are classed as ground, and even though Nightmare is assembled and he only does that move where he sends you to the Nightmare realm when he's disassembled, even when he's assembled, if you're standing on the balconies, he pulls you into the Nightmare world sometimes, and I don't know why. And fighting Griffin is far more annoying than fighting Nightmare. Just don't go into the Nightmare realm. I think when you're doing the final encounter with Nightmare and you fight Nilo Angelo when you go into the Nightmare realm, it's actually much better than the first 2 bosses with Phantom and Griffin, because Nilo Angelo can be taken down easily using Ifrit. Inferno is very strong against him, and it's very easy to charge up your Devil Gauge on him and also avoid his attacks. Of course, that's assuming he's not getting hyper armor through your Inferno, or the times where his hitbox is disabled for no reason when you try to use Inferno on him. But yeah, a very simple sniper encounter, and also very interesting how the Umbrella logo is here. Okay, this next part should be pretty simple, because there's no real big boss you're fighting. Best I get some health. So this should be pretty simple. It's just a bunch of nobodies, and that's really it. It's still so odd how this return to the castle, it's just a bunch of reused areas, but the layout is just a little different. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but as I was saying, I mean, we returned to the castle after we went to that little area where we fought Griffin. It just feels like the environmental layout and the pacing, it's similar to Resident Evil 1 Remake. Like, you know, you explore the mansion, then you go to the residence, and then you go back to the mansion and access some new areas, and then you get to the final area. Like, it's similar to that. I mean, we go to the castle, and then we go to that area where Griffin is, which is probably similar to the residence area, but there's more enemies this time. And then we return to the castle, and the layout is entirely different. Like, the pattern of rooms is different. I just can't help but feel like they just tried to use it as an excuse to reuse assets. Also, something interesting I learned from that speedrunner I watched, but you can do this. So you can do a thrust, and then press X when you get to the context-sensitive animation to do a longer jump, which is interesting, but it doesn't lock on to the next possible ground that you can stand on. You just kind of jump off the edge. So you gotta be really clever when you use it. Yeah, like I said, this is a very simple mission. It's no problem whatsoever. And that's that. So we have the next one with Nightmare, then with Mundus, and then the escape.